What if I told you that the cure for one of humanity's deadliest diseases won a Nobel Prize, but the plant it comes from is effectively blacklisted by the same organizations that handed out the award? How is it possible that a scientist was given the highest honor in medicine for discovering a compound, while the weed that produces it is treated like a dangerous secret? In 2015, a quiet scientist named Youyou stood on a stage in Stockholm to receive the Nobel Prize in Medicine. It was the highest honor in the scientific world. She had saved millions of lives. She had discovered the most potent cure for malaria ever known to man. But here is the paradox that the news cameras did not show you. The medicine that won her that prize was not a synthetic compound created in a billion-dollar laboratory. It was not a molecule invented by a supercomputer. It was a tea. It was an extract from a common weed that grows in ditches, abandoned lots, and riverbanks across Asia and America. But while the scientific community gave the woman a medal, the medical establishment declared war on the plant she used. The World Health Organization explicitly discourages the use of this plant in its natural form. Pharmaceutical companies have spent decades synthesizing its active ingredient so they can sell it back to you in a blister pack while lobbying to keep the seeds out of your garden. They tell you it is for your own safety. They tell you the plant is unreliable. But the truth is far simpler. You can patent a pill. You cannot patent a weed that grows 6 feet tall in a crack in the pavement. This is the story of Artemisia annua, sweet wormwood. The plant that cured a pandemic, won a Nobel Prize, and became the pharmaceutical industry's worst nightmare. To understand the power of this plant, we have to go back to the height of the Vietnam War, the late 1960s. North Vietnamese soldiers were dying. They were not just dying from American airstrikes. They were dying from a microscopic assassin, malaria. The parasite had mutated. It was resistant to every drug the world had. Chloroquine, the standard treatment, was useless. Entire platoons were being wiped out by fever before they even saw the enemy. Desperate, the North Vietnamese government reached out to their allies in China for help. Chairman Mao launched a secret military operation. Codename Project 523. The mission was simple: find a cure for malaria or lose the war. Scientists screened thousands of synthetic chemicals. Nothing worked, so they turned to the archives. They opened the dusty, forbidden books of traditional Chinese medicine. One researcher, Youyou, found a cryptic reference in a text written by a physician named Ge Hong. The book was 1,600 years old. It was titled A Handbook of Prescriptions for Emergencies. The text mentioned a plant called Qinghao, sweet wormwood, for treating fevers. But when the scientists boiled the plant to make a tea, it failed. It did nothing. Youyou went back to the ancient text. She read the sentence again. It said, "Take a handful of Qinghao, soak it in 2 liters of water, wring out the juice, and drink it all." She realized the mistake. Modern science is obsessed with heat. We boil, we synthesize, we refine. But the ancients knew something we forgot. Heat destroys the medicine. She extracted the plant in cold ether. She tested it. The results were not just good. They were perfect. It killed 100% of the malaria parasites. 100%. It was not a drug. It was a biological weapon hidden in a leaf. And it had been sitting in the library for 16 centuries, waiting for someone to listen. Youyou's discovery saved millions. The compound was named Artemisia. Logic suggests that the world should have started planting sweet wormwood everywhere. If you can grow the cure in your backyard, nobody needs to die of malaria. But that is not how the medical industry works. In the 1990s and the 2000s, huge pharmaceutical conglomerates took over. They took the Artemisia molecule. They isolated it. They combined it with other synthetic drugs. They created artemisinin-based combination therapies. They patented these combinations. They sold them to governments and aid organizations for billions of dollars, and then they turned on the plant. The World Health Organization issued guidelines. It strongly discouraged the use of Artemisia tea. The argument sounded scientific. Officials said that using the raw plant would deliver inconsistent doses. They said it could help the parasite develop resistance. They said leave the medicine to the professionals. But let us look at the economics. A course of pharmaceutical malaria treatment can cost huge sums for a developing nation. A bush of Artemisia annua produces thousands of seeds. It grows like a weed. It requires zero technology to harvest. A study found that an infusion of the dried leaves could deliver a therapeutic dose capable of clearing the parasite from the blood. But if people grow their own medicine, the supply chain breaks. The middleman is cut out. The patent becomes worthless. So the narrative was set. The Nobel Prize went to the discovery, but the plant itself was pushed into the shadows. They celebrated the molecule, but they outlawed the method. Why is the industry so afraid of this plant? Because it does not just kill malaria. New research suggests it might be one of the most powerful anti-cancer agents in nature. And it works through a mechanism so elegant, it looks like science fiction. Here is how artemisinin works. It is a Trojan horse. The molecule contains a chemical structure called a peroxide bridge. Think of it as a biological tripwire. This tripwire is sensitive to one thing: iron. Malaria parasites feed on blood. They are full of iron. Cancer cells are also voracious. They need iron to divide, so they hoard it. A cancer cell can have 1,000 times more iron receptors than a healthy cell. When artemisinin enters the body, it floats harmlessly past healthy cells. But when it touches a cancer cell or a malaria parasite, boom! The iron reacts with the peroxide bridge. It breaks. It releases a burst of free radicals. It is a microscopic explosion. It shreds the cancer cell from the inside out. It leaves healthy tissue untouched. Studies at the University of Washington showed this compound killed breast cancer cells in test tubes with terrifying efficiency. In 16 hours, it eliminated almost all of them. Again, this is not a chemotherapy drug that poisons your whole body. It is a smart bomb, and it is produced by a plant that smells like sweet perfume and grows in the dirt. So how do you find this outlaw plant? You need to be careful. There are hundreds of types of Artemisia. You might know its cousin Artemisia absinthium, the plant used to make absinthe, the green fairy. That one is bitter and hallucinogenic in high doses. But you are looking for Artemisia annua, common name Sweet Annie or Sweet Wormwood. Here is how to identify it. First, look at the leaves. They are bright green, lacy, and fern-like. They look delicate. Second, notice the size. This is a monster. In a single summer, it can grow from a tiny seed to a 6-foot-tall tower. It dominates the garden. Third, and most importantly, the smell. Rub the leaves between your fingers. It does not smell like a weed. It smells sweet, like camphor, like bubblegum, or like spicy perfume. It is unmistakable. It grows in full sun. It is drought tolerant. It is pest resistant. Because it is so full of medicinal compounds, bugs leave it alone. Deer leave it alone. It protects itself. And if you know how to use it, it can protect you. The traditional method, the one Youyou found in that 1,600-year-old book, is simple. Do not boil it. Harvest the leaves before the plant flowers. Dry them. Steep them in warm water or extract them in alcohol. Keep the peroxide bridge intact. We live in a world that tells us health is complicated. We are told that cures must be expensive, that they must be approved by a committee, that they must come with a list of side effects longer than the benefits. But the story of Artemisia proves them wrong. The most sophisticated medicine on the planet is not found in a clean room. It is found in nature's library. A woman won a Nobel Prize for reading a book that modern scientists ignored. She saved millions by listening to the wisdom of the past. The pharmaceutical industry wants you to believe that the molecule is the magic. They want you to buy the extraction, not the source. Because if you respect the source, you realize you do not need them as much as they need you. Sweet wormwood is a symbol. It represents a medicine that is democratic, decentralized, uncontrollable. It is the ultimate outlaw plant. They can discourage it. They can ban it from their guidelines. They can pretend it does not exist, but they cannot stop it from growing. Next time you see a fern-like weed growing tall in a vacant lot, take a closer look. Smell it. You might be standing next to a Nobel Prize winner. You might be standing next to the cure. Grow the plant. Keep the seeds. Share the knowledge. The resistance is fertile.